Just focus on your fight. Focus on your fight. Focus on your fight for you not make it to your fight. Focus on your fight for you not make it to your fight. Focus on your fight for you not make it to your fight. I'm not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it to your fight. You're not gonna make it to your fight.
Okay, guys, let's break it up already.
A night of boxing with an international player here in Corpus Christi, Texas, against Australia versus USA tomorrow evening. This bout scheduled for 8 rounds in this super middleweight division. 2 battle-tested fighters. If you don't have your tickets in hand quite yet, make sure you get them tomorrow.
Could Terence Crawford's next fight be at 154 versus Israil Madrimov, working with the Saudis? That's what I want to talk about right now in this video. Barbosa Boxing, you guys see it on the screen, boxing analyst with ESPN Knockout, right? He posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, an interesting tweet that's making its rounds, right? He says, looking forward to His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh first U.S. invasion with Terence Crawford. We all know that Bud Fundura ain't happening. Not for nothing, Errol Spence was in the ring last Saturday after the fight. I like Terence Crawford versus Boachuk in Los Angeles or Vegas for the interim WBC 154-pound title. Wishful thinking. So he's just pretty much putting his bid out for what he likes. He likes Boachuk, who fought on the PBC first Amazon Prime card against Brian Mendoza, which he was supposed to fight Fundura, but Mendoza stepped in as a late replacement after Keith one-time Thurman, was forced to pull out. But then here's where it gets interesting. It says, it's great Terence Crawford has Saudi support. He is definitely the number 2 or the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Israil Madrimov is emerging. Let's see if I can highlight it for you. Israil Madrimov is emerging as the front-runner rival for Crawford's debut at 154 pounds. Solid matchmaking looking forward. Now, you at home listening to this video, I know you and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what does Boxing Ego think about Crawford moving up to 154 to fight Israil Madrimov? Stay tuned to the end of this video. I will give you guys my complete thoughts. Now, I watch boxing. I personally know who Israil Madrimov is. He is the newly crowned WBA champion, right? Here's the problem. Hardcore boxing fans may recognize the name. Maybe some of you guys don't. Let me know in the comments section if you're familiar with Israil Madrimov. But here's the problem. He is undefeated. He has 10 fights, or actually 11 fights. He's 10-0-1, so 1 draw. He's 5'8.5", and he's training in California, I believe, right? So 11 fights, 7 knockouts, high knockout percentage, 70%, right? And he's the WBA champion. So the good thing for Crawford is it'll give him an opportunity, if this fight is made, to actually fight and challenge for a belt, right? The bad thing is this is a guy who's a new champion, because Jermell Charlo, you guys have to keep in mind, he was undisputed, but in his effort to fight Canelo and move up 14 pounds, he ended up losing his belt. Madrimov fought in March of this year in Saudi Arabia, so it looks like they've already worked with him, and that's where he got Jermell's old belt, the WBA World Super Welterweight vacant title, right? So he got that in Saudi Arabia, Madrimov, and I watched that fight, right? He fought Kurbanov, who was 25-0, and he got a TKO. Again, I watched it. I want to say it was on the Joshua Ngannou card, I think. Anthony Joshua, when he knocked out Ngannou, right? It was on that particular card. So he's been a champion since March, the beginning of March, and that's what it is. So he's a brand new champion, is what it is. still an opportunity because Sebastian Fundora just became a champion as well. But again, look at his resume. Like, he fought Michel Soro. That's a known name. He has 11 fights. So U.S. audiences definitely won't really be familiar with Madrimov. He is an Olympian. I've watched him. He's from Uzbekistan. Crawford, even though he's moving up, he'll probably be the favorite against a guy like Madrimov because of Crawford's style. You know, it might be odds like whatever Victor Postal odds were for Crawford back in the day. And, you know, it is what it is. So I don't really have too much to say. Looking forward, this is the World Boxing Association, aka the WBA. I will go to the division where Crawford could fight, super welterweight. And again, WBA champion Israil Madrimov. Jermell Charlo is the champion in recess because he's inactive. And then the number 1 rated is Virgil Ortiz Jr. So that's a good thing because Oscar De La Hoya has taken to social media stating he wants to have Crawford fight against Virgil Ortiz. But he also tweeted that he would like Jermell Charlo to fight Virgil Ortiz. I don't know if a deal could be made there, but as of right now, Virgil Ortiz, who just moved up to 54, could possibly fight Madrimov, or if Crawford fights Madrimov, fight the winner. We have to see how this plays out. But as of me recording this video, nothing is confirmed. It looks like this is just something that could be worked on in the background. And they're saying Israil Madrimov is emerging as the front runner. Now, the funny thing is this. You're going to have the Bud buddies. They're going to be jumping up for joy like, aha, see, he didn't have to sign the PBC like you said. But that's my honest opinion. The best bet would be for him to sign the PBC, right? And the funny thing is they're going to conveniently move the goalpost, right? The same people said that are now going to laugh like, oh, he found another like exit or a way to get paid without PBC, right? It's moving the goalpost because the same people said that Crawford petitioning the WBO would get Sebastian Fundora and Tim Tszyu winner, which we now know is Sebastian Fundora. So it's like, which one is it? So if he does fight Madrimov, then if he loses, I mean, you already know what a loss is, but let's say he wins because he'll be the favorite versus Madrimov, I would imagine, based on the fact that he's pound for pound. So if he beats Madrimov, then that automatically takes him out of the rankings. So the Fundora fight is off the table. So Crawford, again, will find himself in the same position that he's been in his whole career of fighting guys, even if they're decent or good guys, with little profiles, little names, and little known. So if that's what he's cool with, like if the Saudis want to, you know, pay him and they're willing to cash him out, and then he fights Madrimov, a guy with 11 fights, and, you know, have at it, enjoy. But it's going to look bad, in my opinion, because he's discounted a guy like Jerron Boots Ennis, who also is a new champion with the IBF. So how is it that Crawford has said there's nothing to gain by fighting Jerron Boots Ennis, but then you can fight Madrimov if this fight comes into fruition? And he's been kind of inactive, right, outside of his recent fight. Let's look at it. So again, I showed you he fought in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia in March. His last fight before that was in April of last year, and then he only fought one time in 2022. So, and that was a rematch to Michel Soro. So, which he had a draw with, you know what I mean? So, how do you justify not fighting Jerron Boots Ennis to fight Madrimov? Like, what's the real difference? They're both new champions, but the biggest difference is the bigger money fight, to me, the bigger fan fight that people would be excited for would clearly be Boots. So if Bud continues to do, you know, make up his own choices, and if he goes this route, it's really no different than his career at Top Rank, fighting the likes of Mean Machine and, you know, some obscure names like that, or past it guys like Amir Khan and Kell Brook. You would be fighting Madrimov, who at best, hardcore boxing fans know he has 11 fights, including a draw. He's been inactive. So, I mean, to me, signing with PBC, fighting the likes of Erickson Lubin, trying to fight Tim Tszyu, you know, trying to fight Jermell Charlo, trying to fight Fundura. I think these fights are in the realm of possibilities if Crawford was willing to sign with PBC. But operating as a free agent, they don't owe you anything, so they're going to take care of their own fighters. So if that means Crawford has to find his own situation, it's literally going to be like his days at Top Rank, where he's fighting a name for money like Jeff Horn that doesn't really carry much weight. It's not really known. It's not going to be a big ticket seller. I mean, it's kind of like a selfish play if you think about it, right? Because boxing fans want to see big events and big fights. And if Crawford truly fights a guy like Madrimov, I don't even know where they would put that. Like, I would imagine maybe Omaha. That seems like the best, but I don't know. You know, it depends on Madrimov. He's the champion. Does he want to fight in Crawford's backyard? Because keep in mind, you had another fighter, David Avocado, and he fought Crawford in his backyard. And then the Nebraska Omaha Commission, they let Crawford fight, and his gloves had exploded in the middle of the contest. So I don't know. I don't really love it. It's just there. I will admit that if Crawford does fight Madrimov, it's still a letdown from the Errol Spence victory, which was an amazing victory for Crawford, but it is better than him fighting against Josh Kelly. But all this stuff is in the preliminary stages. We have to see. Bud is a fighter who beats to the sound of his own drum, and I really don't know what direction he'll go in. So I would just keep you guys posted. But let me know if you're impressed. If Crawford, coming off the heels of his very best win, his biggest win versus Errol Spence, do you want to see him fight Israil Madrimov? Or would you prefer to see him fight fighters that are aligned with PBC, which would likely force him to have to join forces? And again, I don't really see why that would be a big deal, since you committed a large chunk of your career, 10 plus 11 years, to Top Rank. You had a Jewish promoter, Bob Arum from New York. You signed with him, and PBC, I doubt you would have to sign for a 10, 11 year deal, but Manny Pacquiao even did it. After the Jeff Horn fight, his contract ended with Top Rank, and he closed his career with Al Heyman. So Pacquiao has always been a bigger name overall than Terence Crawford. I'm not talking about the quality of the fighter or the skills, but I'm just talking about who Pacquiao is to boxing. He's a household name, and signing with PBC to close his career was good enough for Manny Pacquiao, who's a bigger name. Why is it not good enough for Terence Crawford? You even see Pacquiao fighters on PBC cards. One just won a title. That was Esau Pitbull Cruz, who's managed by MP Manny Pacquiao Promotions.